Hi, I'm Rebecca Schier-Akamelu, and welcome to One Final Twist.
Welcome to One Final Twist. This week we are joined by Rebecca Schier-Akamelu, the author of Negative Images, published by Rising Action. It's available now. Be sure to check it out. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. Thank you to Ash at Rising Action for connecting us. If you don't mind, everybody, be sure you subscribe and like the podcast on whichever channel that you listen. Tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me on. I
Awesome.
can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So Negative Images is essentially about people coming back from the dead. It's not everybody who comes back from the dead, and it's happening around the world. So these are like visible hauntings, like everybody can see who's being haunted by the type of ghost is called a negative image. So everybody can see like if you have one, but nobody knows what causes it or how to get rid of them. And my main character, Anita, is being haunted by her husband, who she lost recently. So throughout the book, she's just kind of, struggling to deal with being haunted throughout her day-to-day life and figure out, why he's here, how do I get him to leave? And there's, people in the world have a lot of thoughts about, those who are haunted too, which certainly comes into play later in the book.
These ghosts are not the friendly type ghost either.
No. No, they basically take all of like your shared memories, your precious memories, and just use those to torment you. So, yeah.
Where did you come up with this idea? This is a very unique take on the ghost story.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I honestly think it's rooted a bit in like some of my own social anxiety, I think especially as a kid, I would talk to people and then it's like, well, what did they really think of me? Because everybody has like, the things we say and we have some thoughts that we hold back, right? So
Mhm.
I just kind of thought, what would it be like if, we saw just somebody's negative take of us and that was all we really saw. So that's kind of where these ghosts came from.
Is this your first feature-length novel or full-length novel?
Yes, it is.
What drew you to write horror?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I did try to stay, away from horror. I think, especially like growing up, I don't know if this is something that you experienced, but I know like I read a lot of like horror, and fantasy. And then it's like as you become an adult, it's like, oh, well, you should really read literature. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to read literature. And then I just couldn't do it. So inevitably, if I write a story, there's usually something that works its way and there's something paranormal, or supernatural in some way. So,
Yeah. And you talking about what we read as youngsters. And when I was in high school, it was a totally different time. But I did my senior English paper on The Shining.
oh,
And
nice.
and that I graduated in 1990, so I'm telling my age a little bit. But that would today in today's world, that would just be absolutely unheard of. To have a Stephen King book as your one of your choices.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I feel like maybe now people are recognizing some of the literary merit more in horror, which I really enjoy seeing. But yeah,
yeah.
certainly as a student, that was, yeah, not something I would be encouraged to write a paper on.
Mhm. What advice would you have for someone wanting to start out writing?
Oh gosh. I'd say, try to, find what works best for you with writing. I know a lot of writers say, you should write every day. And I certainly aspire to that, but I mean, let's be real, life happens, like I've got quite a few little kids, so there are, some days where like I can't write. But I just try to I end up keeping notes for myself, like if I know I might be away for a few days
Mhm.
just to try to help me jump back in more quickly. I would just, don't judge yourself by like what you hear other writers do. Just find what works for you. Stay away from AI if you're a writer, it's not your friend. And
Um,
then just be persistent.
what does success mean to you as an author?
Oh gosh. I mean, I feel like if I can just actually sit down and write, some days that is the success, Like there's nothing that can take away from the feeling of like crafting a scene and you feel like you nailed it,
Mhm.
And That's not something that somebody else can give to you. It's just, something that you experience, you feel. So I try to stick with that. I try to stick with like what I can control. But I mean, certainly like being able to say that I've published a novel, that was a big
Mhm.
landmark for me. So,
When you were editing negative images, was there a scene or a character that you had to cut out that felt like you were just ripping your heart out that you had to cut from the book?
oh gosh, that is such a good question. I ended up having to make like some big changes, and it wasn't something that like I was told to do. It was just something that, after getting some feedback from agents, when I was querying, I just felt like the beginning of the book was a bit too slow, so I had to kind of like find a way to just throw my main character into it. So
Mhm.
I actually ended up changing quite a bit about the first part of the book. With how her husband dies.
Mm.
Uh, and that was hard, but I really think it was for the best.
When you were doing research, even when you do fiction, there's a bit of research that has to be done.
Mhm.
Was there anything that you discovered that was like a total surprise and shock to you?
I can't say it was like a surprise or a shock, but I spent a lot of time on social media
Mhm.
just kind of lurking. To this day, I'm not that active on social media. I try to be. I will get better at that. But there's social media certainly takes it's very important in the book because people are expressing what they think of like the people who have negative images and did they do something to deserve it and just kind of spending any amount of time just looking in the comment section on any post. I mean, you see people who will fight and call each other names over nothing. I mean, so I just kind of, if there was ever a time where I was questioning, oh, would somebody really say that online? It's like, yes, they would.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I'm
the
sure there's somebody who would go there.
the keyboard warriors, man, they're sometimes they're brutal.
Yeah.
Is there a genre that you would like to write?
I love mystery and I love sci-fi. So I could see myself kind of getting into those. I especially love mystery. I mean, I've read a ton of Agatha Christie and Anthony Horowitz. So, I really admire like how they can craft something out, and the solution's there. Like you could find it if you can just make yourself think the right way.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's always very satisfying when you figure it out, I think, as a reader.
With your process, are you a plotter or a pantser? Do you
I'm a
let it
pantser.
rip? You're a pantser.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, sometimes if I get stuck, I'll kind of just like write out just enough of an outline to get myself moving again.
uh-huh.
But yeah, I've tried to plot out books and it just doesn't work for me. The characters usually just want to do something else.
You just have to go with the flow on some stuff. Is there an author that you would like to co-write with?
Oh my gosh, that is a fantastic question. I don't know. I mean, I've never co-written anything before.
Mhm.
I'd be really intrigued to know what that process is like, but I mean, yeah, I'd be open to it. I mean, there's so many. I mean, I don't know. Catriona Ward writes some great
Yeah,
stuff. Stephen
yeah.
King, of course. I
Oh
mean, who would say no to
yeah.
collaborating with him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke with a one of Patterson's co-writers a few weeks ago, and she's been lucky enough to write with him. She wrote a small series, and she was like, she's in Australia, so they would spend. She said she would spend sometimes 8 hours a day on the phone talking, and they would go back and forth, and it was just interesting to see how they were able to craft out a book
Yeah.
and with on different continents. I mean, with today's technology, it's not that big a deal, but you just think about somebody being a whole day away from where you're at. That's just kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you think is underrated or an author that you think is underrated that needs a little bit more attention?
Oh man. I mean, I really enjoyed The September House when that came out by
Mhm.
Carissa Orlando. And I need to, probably go look and see what else she has coming out. But I just thought that book was fantastic. I loved that. I thought that was a really unique take on a haunted house, just kind of the annual like seasonality of it and
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah. What are you working on now? Is there something in the pipeline?
Well, hopefully, I mean, I am working on another novel. This one's more of a haunted house story. So, I don't have it under contract or anything yet, but I'm hoping to, get that out the door here and hopefully find a home. So,
When you when you're writing, about how long does it take you to go from typing chapter one to when you get ready to turn it in? About how long does it take you to write?
well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I started writing negative images back in like 2018, and then I was querying it like in 2021, 2022. And I kind of thought that was the final version. Then I had to go back and make changes to it. And then more changes, once I got my publisher and went through developmental edits. So, I mean, there were a few, I mean, I guess from chapter one to publication, I guess that's about 8 years.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, I mean, there were lots of times when I thought I was done, and then I find out I'm not done.
Yeah.
So,
The end product was very a well polished book. It was sensational.
oh, thank you.
Is there anything that I didn't ask that you would like to talk about?
I can't think of anything at
Okay,
the
that's fine.
moment.
Can you tell us what your social media handles and where people can find you online if they want to connect?
Sure, yeah. So my website is it's just my name, Rebecca Schier-Akamelu.com. No hyphen. And then on Instagram, I am R Sheer Akamelu author. So yeah, that's where I'm most active.
Okay. Is there a place where people can get signed copies if they want signed copies?
Oh gosh. Well, I was just at the Bookworm in Omaha and I left
Okay.
them some kind signed copies there.
Okay.
I try to pop into indie bookstores and do that if I'm
All right.
out and about and they have it in stock.
All right.
I love your bookcase. That is such
Oh,
a cool.
my wife did that.
Oh, really?
It was a Halloween prop, and she's like, I think we can turn that into a bookcase. It's actually a coffin. So she put glass.
Uh-huh.
It's got glass shelves. She did a good job. Thank you again for joining me today. Negative Images by Rebecca Schier-Akamelu is available now from Rising Action. Thank you to Ash at Rising Action for connecting us. Be sure to follow Rebecca on all of her social medias and check out her book, Negative Images. It is a sensational horror ghost type story. Thank you, and y'all have a good day.